Fulton Homes has been around over 40 years. Ira Fulton started the company here in Phoenix and came to it out of the retail business. He owned a big and tall store in Los Angeles called Eagleson's, and he financed Fulton Homes out of Eagleson's. And during the savings and loan debacle of the 80s, he was able to take Eagleson's profits and buy land pennies on the dollars, where he got to be a pretty big player because the national builders in Phoenix weren't able to grab that much cash. So then he decided some years later in 1995 to sell Eagleson's and put that money into Fulton Homes. So he sold the chain to a group out of St. Louis called Edison Brothers and put the money into into Fulton Homes at the time. And at that point, we became, building well over 1,000 homes a year. And that was really the impetus that made Fulton Homes what it is today. I joined the team. I was with Eagleson's. I was with Ira over in Los Angeles at Eagleson's. I was vice president of stores and was with them for about 6 years. And when he sold the company, I didn't know what to do. I go, wait a minute, what are we doing here? And so I stayed with the company a year. The company that succeeded them, I stayed with them for a year because Ira had a no-compete clause in the sale agreement where he couldn't hire anyone from Eagleson's to work for Fulton Homes. When that year came up, then we got together and he said, why don't you come over and, help us build houses. I said, well, I don't know anything about houses. And he goes, well, but you know about people and you know about suits and you know about, stuff like that. And you have a tremendous skill level. And I think you could take that retail background and really help with Fulton Homes. And that was 1996. So that was 25 years ago. The good thing is the owners, Ira and his son, Doug, who's now the CEO, and Norm Nichols, who's the president, they all worked at Eagleson's. They all had a retail background. So mine was a little longer. I had been in retail over 25 years, and they weren't in that as long a time. So I became the retail experts. And so, but we've always had a retail background as far as how to run the company. Like Norm would look at. Norm does the buying of the land and the development of the communities, and so he would look at it from a customer standpoint as opposed to a builder standpoint. So that made us immediately successful there. Okay. What I did is I kind of said, well, how do we do it over to the sales aspect? I was kind of in charge of sales and marketing. I said, well, how do we make it so the sales process is retail oriented versus builder oriented? And builder oriented concentrates more on the product, while retail oriented concentrates on the customer.
Yeah.
That's a big difference. We had the first builder website in 1997, where it was, what are you doing here? You have a website, and I thought websites were going to be pretty popular.
Yeah.
And, a lot of people said, well, we don't need that. We don't, and it was just different. We were advertising in the newspaper and things like that. So what we did is made our sales offices way more buyer oriented, more friendly, put in more technology. We were the first to develop interactive floor plans. We were the first to develop interactive lot maps. Just stuff like that we had to find these vendors that would do this stuff because no one knew what we were talking about.
Were you afraid of being able to produce these personalized homes profitably? Or did you have that pre-engineered into your options selection and purchasing software?
So we had it in there already. So every option that we built, there's a very detailed background behind it. So we weren't just doing customs. It was all option oriented, but the options were very spelled out and very specific.
Uh-huh.
We then built a design center in 2006 and took that same philosophy, but made it stronger.
Yeah. Let's stay in the back office of that, right?
Okay.
Like, how do you get your vendors to be good partners with you on the digital options selection stuff, as in getting you the right assets and getting you the right message materials, and not just some like industrial cut sheet that isn't really designed to sell through to the consumer. I mean, what are your relationships and processes like to get that done?
So you almost have two stages. So we said that we had a portal for the vendors, and we said, okay, you're going to get on a computer, and you're going to, all your starts and POs and everything will be on here. Okay. And they said, well, I don't have a computer. So we bought them a computer, and then we trained them on how to use it. And we said, if you're going to work for it, it's just way cheaper buying them computers than it is, trying to do it manually, right? So we bought a bunch of vendors' computers, and they go, okay, so now what do we do? We'll teach Susie how to do it, right? And we did. And then it got better and better and better, and we gave them more information and more information. So basically they got nothing on, we used to fax that stuff and everything, but everything was online. They go into their portal, they see exactly what they want, the schedule, the POs, the starts, everything.
Yeah. So talk to me about personalization being kind of a blank slate versus packaging, or maybe not versus, but in addition to packaging. And so I'm kind of interested in the pros and cons, or whether one is right for one type of buyer versus another.
Yeah. So we've made every mistake you can make, I think. And at one point we said, well, let's go, and this was during the depths of the depression in 2008. We said, well, let's do packages. So we took a couple of series and we said, let's do packages, and we could get better pricing on the packages because the vendors, it's easier for them. We didn't have to get the people through the design center, so that was a little easier and things like that. But what we found there was the buyers didn't like it. And the problem with packages at the time were they liked 3 or 4 of the items, but the third one they didn't like, or the fifth one they didn't like. They didn't like the cabinets, or they didn't like the flooring, and we didn't know what it was that they didn't like.
It was whole home packaging versus packaging within a kitchen setting or something like that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And then we said, well, let's make it a little easier. We'll give them a choice of colors. So we could do this light cabinet or this darker cabinet and things like that. And they didn't like that at all. And there was almost a revolution. So we said, we can't do this. And so we went back to personalization. And if the buyer today wants a package, we have packages. And they're reasonably priced, and they're all priced out by floor plan, so everyone knows exactly how much everything's going to cost.
Yeah.
But 99% of them want the personal touch. They want to be able to choose everything in that house. They just love that.
Do you find that the packaging within a room or in a category of products is more compelling versus whole home sort of stuff? Is there any sense of that?
I think it is, and there's a lot of buyers that don't want to make a lot of choices. We give them the option. If they want to do that, that's fine. If they want to personalize it, that's fine too. It's all about the buyer.
Yeah.
It's not about the builder, it's about the buyer. And that's the whole idea of retail.
Yeah. And so, I mean, what kind of financial performance are you seeing about, around that in terms of revenue per house? Have you seen an increase over time in the options revenue? What kind of percentages do you get to? What kind of are you experiencing on the options side of things?
So when we first started, our timing was just the worst it could possibly be. We opened this thing in 2006, and the crash hit us, and I'm going, wow, this is terrible, So, but as it turned out, it really helped us. We were able to solidify things. We were able to improve on the design center. We built this fabulous design center, 13,000 square feet, and everyone else was closing design centers at the time. And we were expanding. And we were saying, we're going to carry more options. We're going to give the buyer a better selection and things like that. If we hadn't have done that, it would have been very, very difficult for us because our margins were so thin out there in 2009 and 2010 and things like that.
Yeah.
We were selling houses for $109,000. Okay. So if we could get another 20,000 in options, and we net 30%, that's our take on it.
Yeah.
That's big. We would make more on the options than we would on the house.
Yeah.
So that became really important. So I remember, so Eagleson's was doing, when we sold Eagleson's, when Myra sold Eagleson's, it was doing $25 million. And we opened up the design center, which he kind of fought me on, like still kid him about it, but he didn't want to do it. And I said, Ira, we're going to do more in the design center in a year than we did in all 33 Eagleson stores. And he said, there's no way. Well, about 2011, we did that, and we did 25 million. Okay.
Wow.
And we're going, wow, and now 30 and 35. And then this year we're going to do about 75 million. So it's the size of a large Nordstrom store.
Yeah.
That's how size, but we make 30%. That's because we actually don't own the design center. We have a company called ILG, and they own it. We just run it, and we make all the decisions on it, and they pay the bills, and we share in the profits. It's a great situation.
Good. So, from the beginning, when you made the investment in the design center, it was a differentiator, an edge for you versus other builders. Do you feel like it gave you an edge versus used houses as well? Did it highlight the differentiation of new versus used?
Yeah, huge amount. And what we did early on is in 2009, we started inviting the public to our design center, not just people that were buying houses, but people that hadn't bought houses, because they were the competition for used houses as well as other new houses. So we said, if you're interested in looking at a house, come into our design center and we'll show you everything. And we'll give you pricing. We'll tell you how much everything is. We're going to be completely transparent with you. We're still, I think, the only builder that will tell you the price of the house before you buy it. And to me, that was the craziest thing in the world. I make the analogy of going into a retail store. And you go into a retail store and you go into a Nordstrom and you say, okay, how much is that suit? And they say, the suit's $8.95. And they say, okay, the buyer says, well, how much is the shirt, the tie, the belt, and the socks? He says, well, you got to buy the suit and then we'll tell you the price of the other stuff. And that's how builders do it today, exactly. And it's criminal. The buyer is ripped off. The buyer is not treated right. We don't even tell him the price of the house that he's going to spend, $800,000 on.
Yeah.
It's bizarre.
Yeah. So let's talk more about new versus used, right? So you've got this differentiator in terms of the design center. I mean, how do you, number one, build a new home that is substantially better and different than something somebody could have gotten 5 or 10 years ago? It's easier said than done, right? So how do you make that happen? And then how do you market that?
So we market substantially, and there's two things involved. So you've got the style of the house. A house today is completely different than style-wise than it was 10 years ago. You have things that are way more modern, and the buyers see that, and cleaner lines and things like that. So just the facade and the inside, and the kitchens and the appliances and your baseboards and everything is completely different than it was. And the other thing is energy efficiency. And now the big thing, of course, is healthy homes.
Yeah.
So we strongly advertise all three things. Those are three main what we call UOPs, universal selling propositions.
Yeah.
And the idea of having an energy efficient home, a healthy home, which is very popular these days, and then a current, up-to-date, fashionable home is what people are looking for.
Yeah, and so like that, a lot of that differentiation that we talked about previously is in the finishes category, where the dominant stuff in the design center. But when you get to healthy and energy efficiency, a lot of that is in the building envelope and the structure. I mean, do you see that as a place to compete against used as well? And how do you guys get that story through?
That's a good question. And so what we do is we incorporate it. People wouldn't think that we talk about indoor air quality in the design center, but we do. And so we've trained the designers to talk about that during their presentation.
Yeah.
Just as the salespeople are talking about it during their presentation. Everyone's on the same page. That's the other thing. Everyone's on the same page. We're talking the same language. The sales offices look kind of like the design center. Our graphics are the same, our architecture is the same. And so there's a certain consistency by the time the buyer goes on our website, then he comes in the sales center, and then comes in the design center. There's a consistency that builders don't get, but that's that whole retail thing. You wouldn't have things looking completely different. 95% of our buyers start off searching on the internet, and they'll go to Zillow or Realtor.com or New Home Source or our site or Pulte's site or any of them. Okay.
Yeah.
And so what we do on there is put as much information as we can. And so we have visualizers so they can play around with floor plans and play around with what the cabinets look like and everything like that. And then we have a Matterport tour. We have about 100 of those on our site where the buyer can walk through the house and see exactly what it looks like. With it's way better than a bunch of pictures. It's better than your 25 MLS pictures because it gives you a tour of the house.
Yeah.
And so you get people. The entire purpose of our website is to draw people to give them information, to draw people to go to our sales office and then write a contract. That's the whole purpose of the website. Yeah. And people lose sight of that. And if it doesn't do that, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah. So we got digital, and it helps us compete for mind share early in the process. We got digital. It helps us personalize, sell more stuff to every home buyer.
Right.
And actually, potentially, this is creating a digital asset that we can exploit after occupancy, right? Yep. If we've documented the home buying journey, what people are interested in, but they might not have purchased. If we document the as-built home with digital floor plans and everything that we know is in there and correlate it with maintenance information and replacement information, we're sitting on a digital asset that could help us tap into this lifetime revenue, right? Which some folks estimate 40% of the initial transaction price is going to be spent on maintenance, repairs, improvements, etc. So where are you guys on that? Are you tracking on that? Are you working on that? And everybody doesn't want the liability on the callbacks and the warranties, but that doesn't mean you couldn't hand that asset to an agent to do work for you and for you to earn commission on it.
Right. And we're doing some of that. I don't want to get into the details of that, but you're right, we have a huge asset there. The biggest asset is how we market. Because we keep in touch with our buyers. We send our buyers information every month. We send them an email blast that goes out, and we have 100,000 people on our list. Pretty good list. This would include prospects, all buyers, people under contract, people that have been in our sales office, and anyone that'll listen to us.
Yeah.
And we talk to them about energy efficiency. We talk to them about healthy homes. We talk to them about trends. We talk to them about design center stuff. We talk to them about trends in communities and all sorts of stuff like that. And it's amazing when you have that information. And so the other thing we use is with our, and I'm not sure how other builders do this without an in-house process. We use Envision, where everything the buyer does, we know, and the buyer sees everything in every place, and with pictures and prices and warranty information and all that stuff. And it's a wealth of knowledge, and I'm not sure how you can sell a house today without that information. Yet a lot of people try, That's the ante to get in the poker game today.
Yeah.
Is to have that be way beyond digitally than you were, 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah. And one of the things we've talked about with transformation is to get that differentiation, new versus used. We got to get more innovative new products and features more quickly into new homes, right? Because this is it's a complicated thing. It's a complicated supply chain, and I would argue that our selling processes between vendors and builders are antiquated or insufficient, right?
They're awful.
That you would go to a trade show, and you would have an 8-minute engagement with some product specialist at a booth, and 4 minutes of those 8 minutes would be trying to figure out who's who, and 4 minutes would be features, benefits, advantages of the product, end of conversation, right? Well, I think we know, and I'd love to get your take on this, that features, benefits, advantages of the product, they're cool, but you need the process supports that go with that, right? You need the sales, marketing assets, whether those are physical or digital. You need maybe assistance putting it together into a full assortment. So there's a system solution. You need either to train subs or find subs that can do this work without disrupting the construction process. But we don't have that conversation up front. We have that conversation in fits and starts over the course of a year and a half, and nobody can keep everything together.
Yep.
I don't know whether I'm accurate or not.
Oh, you're exactly right on. Okay. But there's a way to get around that. We're in the retail business, right? So this is a few years ago, and plank tile became huge overnight. Okay. We couldn't get it. We couldn't, the manufacturer was so slow to the game. Okay. So we went to Shaw. And Shaw is a big, huge conglomerate, and they do, more carpeting than anyone else in the world. They had gotten out of the tile business a few years earlier. So we had a pretty good relationship with them. We did a lot of business with them. And we said, we met them in Orlando at the IBS show, and we sat down with them, not in a booth, but in a hotel, where we spent an hour with them, and said, we need your help. We need a piece of tile, plank tile. It's got to be 7 by 25. It can't be bigger than that because the labor's too high. We need to get it in our group 5. It's got to be about $7,000 in each house. And we need it in 5 colors, and we need it badly. And we said the same thing to Mohawk. And we said the exact same thing. So 6 months later, Mohawk comes to us, and they have a piece of thing that they had before. They didn't have anything. Shaw comes to us with exactly what we wanted. We said, that is it. That's perfect. When can you ship it? Well, I can ship it. We're in our production now. We can do it in 3 months. So get it in Envision. We'll sell it now because, delivery is no problem. We're 6 months out on, time. The first year, this is one SKU. The first year we sold $1 million worth of that one product. And that's a retailer and a manufacturer working together quickly and coming up with the same thing. Yeah. Recently, we came to the same thing. We need a shower enclosure that is affordable, but nicer than cultured marble at this price point. And they've come up with the same thing. And it's a Shaw. Manufacturers have to do more of that. They have to get with the buyer, the builders, and say, what can we do to benefit? Now, Shaw sells a ton of this tile. It's called Ventura. And they sell a ton of it now because of us.